Hello. I mainly want to talk about my culture, Nigerian, Nigerian. I know that a lot of the culture that was instilled in me was based on the fact that I was the firstborn. In Nigeria, we call the firstborn opera, which has a little bit of like rituals and stuff like that in there. Like the first child in Igbo culture, which is my language in Nigeria, is the first male born son. And it's the first member in the particular household, basically the son who's alive first. And that has instilled in me a lot of principles where you're taught in Nigerian culture that if anything goes wrong, anything in the family goes wrong, any of the younger siblings results in any type of problem, the firstborn son is the one held responsible for it. But it has to do any disciplinary actions. So let's say my sister, I have a younger sister and younger brother, would do something wrong, I'll be the one that will take the punishment for it because I am the firstborn son. I take that responsibility. And that was something that was very visible to me in my household when I was growing up. And I wouldn't say that like it doesn't say like a horrible thing because it definitely did instill a lot of principles that were very, very important for me, as the fact of growing up being the eldest, having to be a setting example for my younger siblings, even though that they'll do some things wrong, like it would still be a part of me, and to be the upper and be the elder son to be responsible and held for their actions. But I definitely felt like it instilled like kind of bad culture or I guess like social standards for like my younger siblings, because I guess they were not that they're bad people or they're bad like or they're not like disciplined enough, but I felt like it kind of pushed the blame away from them and pushed it onto me in a sense. But yeah, I felt like a lot of that, I guess in ways of like my grandparents and my extended family, we're very, very raised Christian, Catholic, very, very religious, you know, on the principles of like, you follow the word of God, you follow the Ten Commandments, you follow the principles. And I don't know if I would say that like I would be like, I felt like the culture shock between Nigeria and America was different, I guess, because me being born in America and my parents being born in Nigeria. Because they're coming here, they would expect the opportunity for me to be like more educated, have more better opportunity. But I felt like that kind of like the cultural shock in it was like a lot of values they had instilled in me. Like for example, I guess would say values along the lines of like marriage and like the way around it. Like I kind of like have like kind of bearings, like kind of like, I guess you could say like conflicts between like, you know, premarital sex, or maybe like, I guess social issues with rights around, you know, different types of people. I feel like that kind of has conflict me, but I think that's more of like a cultural difference from the fact that I grew up in America and they grew up in Nigeria, and I feel like that kind of relegated that to that standard. But I would definitely say that like one thing that like I guess I hope for like the culture shock difference is like the fact around like the way I guess you treat other people, like the way I guess like not the fact that like I think that like some aspects of Nigerian culture is like discriminatory, but I feel like it's kind of like shuns off people, you know. And I feel like I'm in my opinion from my grandparents, I feel like I'm more accepting of other people. And I guess I'm not as accepting of other people in that sense, where it's like when you're sitting in Christian culture, like it's very, very like centered around like this is how things go, like the basis of like you have a relationship between a male and a female, which there's different arguments around like in my headspace around like, well, there might be other opportunities for other different types of people to be able to live happy lives and live fortunate lives, but there's different conflicts between that. The way I dress, I have hair, like I grew up very like something around the fact of like you always cut your hair, you always have like a low like shape hair, you don't have a lot of hair growing up, and I feel like that difference in barriers between me growing up in America and them growing up in Nigeria really happened to that when, since I don't want to cut my hair, sometimes I would like to have longer hair. And they would be like, no, like this, you're supposed to dress proper, you're supposed to look proper for people, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to dress a certain way, look a certain way, and you have the opportunity. I guess that's very, very imprinted in immigrant cultures. They want you to look a certain way, they want you to act a certain way, because the basis of why you're coming to this country is to have a better opportunities, to be able to get the job that will be fulfilling for you, to be able to provide for your family. That's very important. So the idea of fitting in is very, very important to the culture in Nigeria. It's very, very important because it allows you to be successful. Fitting in is being successful. That's a very, very imprinted idea of culture. And it relates to a lot of the differentiating like parables about like how like I feel that along the lines of like Jewish standards, especially in I guess like when we talk about in Jewish culture, like about the idea of like the fact a big thing will be about women, but the fact that like the traditional standards like housewife, you know, that type of lifestyle for women is very, very ingrained in a lot of traditional cultures in a sense. And I feel like that like mold and trying to break free from that is kind of like it's kind of frowned upon in a sense throughout our history, because the idea of breaking free and being more loose and being more, I guess you could say, liberal in a sense, to where like you're not going on your culture is like I can relate to that for Nigerian culture, because Nigerian culture is very, very predicated on the fact of like, even with the upper sense of me being the first point out, like you're very, very instilled with your culture. You know, you're very, very like tied down to the fact of like you have a certain amount of standards. You're expected to reach a certain standard. You're expected to do certain attributes. This is the way you're supposed to be. You're supposed to fit in. You're supposed to take responsibility for that action, and you're supposed to stay in your role in a sense. And that's kind of I felt like with Nigerian cultures. That's kind of what I relate to. So yeah. I definitely hope for the future that like we're more accepting for the people, more accepting of different ideas, not more accepting of being able to like push our culture in a way that is the way to accept more people, but it's also more loving in a sense, you know, towards different cultures and things like that. So yeah.